This is Farfetch Threads, our people podcast, where you can hear the real stories about life as a Farfetcher.
Hello and welcome to the second episode of Farfetch Threads, our people podcast. I'm Richard Sullivan, Director and Experience Team in Marketing, and I'm also the Chair of the Working Parents Group here at Farfetch. And today I'll be talking to Nehal Bhayani on the topic of working parents at Farfetch. Nehal, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at Farfetch?
Hi, Rich. Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming.
I am the Director of Total Rewards at Farfetch, and I've been here for coming on 2 years in October. From a role perspective at Farfetch, responsible for compensation and benefits, equity strategy. But my background is actually investment banking. So when I came out of university, I graduated, totally different from what I do now.
The real
when I graduated, when I graduated university, I went into banking because coming out of New York City, that's kind of what you just did. And I worked at HSBC for a little while and then moved to Sky. And I was at Sky in their corporate finance group and their investor relations group. And at that point, I got pregnant and I went on my first maternity leave. I have 3 kids in total. My eldest is Rayan. I get that a lot, actually.
Yeah. I think there's a tipping point, isn't there, at 2? The decision to go from 2 to 3, I think, is the big one.
I have to say, I found the third one just came into the role. She was the easiest of all of this. It was so funny. It was 2, and then suddenly we were 3 and a party of 5. And I can tell you, there's a lot of challenges with operating as a party of 5. I have 3. Part of it, two working parent household. My husband works at Towers, and 3 kids. Rayan, who is 10, he's going to be 11 next month. My second is Kason, who's 6, and my daughter is Zara, who's 4, and we have a massive milestone. She's just starting foundation at school. So we're kind of officially a household of no more babies. It's amazing.
Sounds amazing to me. My son's only 2, so it's hard to imagine that phase. But looking forward to it.
It is incredible. We went somewhere a couple weeks ago, and it was just so easy. It was like we just left the house and didn't take stuff with us. It'll happen, Rich. I promise.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. More of like a bribing system at the moment for me in terms of getting out of the house. So
that doesn't change.
I'm inspired by this story already.
Yeah, the bribing system, that doesn't change, but you will get there.
So Nehal, how do you focus on your career and balance the sort of responsibilities of home life with obviously the challenges you face at work? It'd be great to understand how you've managed to do that, across your career.
Yeah, so I have to give a lot of credit to my husband, actually. 100%, he is my partner in all of this, and without him and his support, like me being able to progress my career in the way I have just wouldn't have been possible. So my thoughts on balance. I actually don't think balance exists. I think actually that's a lot of pressure to put on someone to say, you can balance all of these different things all of the time. Like that's just not realistic. So for me, it's more, what is the priority? What is the priority in that moment, that month, that year, however I need to be focusing my energy? And I think I probably realized it right after my second was born, that there are some things I'm just not going to turn up to, right? So whether they're school events, whether it's work related, personal related, like whatever it might be, that I'm not going to turn up, and that is going to be okay. And I think when I had that realization and I was comfortable with that, it made this idea of balance a lot easier, because I wasn't putting kind of unnecessary pressure on myself to be there for everything and everybody.
Yeah, I think it's an amazing piece of advice
Yeah.
that it's okay. I think sometimes you can feel that you have to achieve all these things, and I think that piece of advice there, I think, echoes with some of my own experiences, which is like it's okay not to do everything, and to not to see fault in any phase of your life where you're, as you say, like not attending or not putting up. Yeah, it completely resonates with me anyway. And what was that experience like? I mean, you sort of touched on it about that sort of first child, and what was that experience like of like returning back to work after maternity leave? I mean, obviously companies vary, but yeah, it'd be great to get your experience, I think, to understand what it was like for you.
It was so different. So I was here in the UK when Rayan was born, and in the UK, it's kind of standard practice to take a year off, anywhere from 6 months to a year off work. And I'm a really organized, planned person. Some would say type A personality. And when that baby comes along, all of that goes out the window, right? Like the babies are the complete opposite of being organized. It is chaos all the time. And that took a massive toll on me and just how I was and how I adjusted to becoming a parent. And it took a long time for me to kind of find my own way of doing it. So when it was time to go back to work, and I think in total, I probably took 13 months. From a child perspective, I'd done my job, right? Like I had gotten him into nursery. He was eating properly. He was starting to walk, starting to make sounds. Like I felt like I'd done a really good job in that part. And now I was ready to get back to work. And getting back to work was great, because I had time by myself. I had order, I had organized, I was focusing on my career. The terrifying part was I felt like I was one of the only people in the team that had a kid. I definitely wasn't. Lots of imposter syndrome, because I moved from finance, which was my kind of education and background before I had my son, into HR and into the reward team. So it was a new opportunity and a completely new role, new team that I was moving into, and definitely felt like I wasn't belonging because I was just coming from somewhere different. And then mom guilt. And these are things people definitely kind of mention, but no one really properly talks about. There are so many different levels of guilt you feel when you return to work or leave your child for the first time or whatever those things might be. And I felt that all the time in the beginning, because it was like, well, should I be here? Like, you know, if I stayed until like 6:30, which pre-child was absolutely normal part of my working style. If I stayed past 6:30, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to miss all these things. The reality is he's like, you know, I don't know, a year and a half at that point. He doesn't remember. Like he definitely has no recollection of me not being there for bath time. But it was that self-imposed pressure that was really tough.
Yeah, it definitely resonates as a father as well. I think you feel the same things. I think probably experienced by other fathers. You still have that same kind of, you mentioned the guilt of you know, the 6:30s or the bath times and all those events. And I think it kind of goes back to your point you made before, which is, I think there's a period of time that you go through where you have a level of acceptance and you can be okay with not having to be there every second of the day, doing everything for both sides. And I think that comes out in that kind of social pressure a bit that you mentioned as well, which is that there's a perception that you should be, you know, everything about work or everything about your child, or and as we mentioned, I think at the beginning, that balance thing isn't quite there, but it's more around that acceptance around that there's going to be times when you're going to be focused on working, there's going to be times when you're focused on your children, there's going to be times when you're focused on yourself as well. Let's not forget you as part of that as well, which is also very important. I think those sort of stories sort of echo and resonate with me a lot from my own experience as well.
As I said, 13 months was too long for me to be off work. It definitely played with my mental health. And so when Kaysen was born, probably about at 6-7 weeks, I was like, yeah, good, I'm ready. Like, let me turn the computer on. And my boss was like, are you sure? And I was like, let me kind of give you my history here. I was like, this is healthy for me. And we had a really clear discussion. And I would recommend for any parent to be able to have those open discussions with their manager, with their people teams, to be able to say what works for you. And you might not know, right? But at whatever point you are ready to return to work, at Farfetch, one of the things that I love seeing is how flexible we are, right? We recently introduced our flexible working policy. And I think a lot of this is going to extend to parents in terms of, as a mom coming back from work with Kaysen, I think my first 2.5 months after so I took like 8 weeks off probably for the baby. And then I worked part-time between home and being in the office, like 3 days a week. But I essentially extended my maternity leave for that period of time. So I was around the house and I had a nanny who supported our family and kind of set up the structure from a mental place. And it wasn't even about my career at that point. It was more about me just mentally taking care of myself. Work and having that balance at home was absolutely the right thing for me. And just knowing that I had the support from my boss and my team to do that was like the best thing, because it just meant that I knew when I was coming and going, and that was kind of the structure that I needed for myself.
Yeah, I mean, you sort of touched on it a bit there with some of the stuff we're sort of doing at Farfetch. And what do you think there is that we're kind of, I guess, that Farfetch is really adding value to for parents, whether that's the existing ones or people looking to have children or returning mothers and fathers? What do you think it is at Farfetch that we're able to really offer as a value?
There are so many different things, and have to caveat, we are a global organization, right?
Yeah.
So every single region will have something a little bit different, tailored to their population, tailored to the legislative requirements of the country. And, in some countries like Japan and Russia, where the government is kind of 1.5 years of paid leave, very different to the US, where that's, significantly less, right? So there is definitely a difference by region. And so if you're a Farfetcher out there and listening, I would say do your research, talk to your people team, talk to your manager about what benefits, what parental related benefits you have. But we do a lot of different things, and it's incredible actually. So in the UK, for example, we offer coaching sessions for parents. So as a parent, as a mom, if you're about to go on leave, you get one coaching session. Before you go on leave, you get one while you're on leave, preparing to come back from work, and then you get two when you've come back. And a lot of that was born out of a realization that, we weren't seeing as many new moms come back into their career after having their baby. And we just wanted to ensure, as a company perspective, we were supporting them in the right way, and we were allowing them, giving them the structure and kind of, support they needed to make the decision, not feel pressured one way or the other.
Yeah.
We have health insurance, and through our health insurance in Portugal, the US, the UK, we have access to a range of counselors and therapists. And we also have Unmind globally, which is an app that supports your mental well-being. I don't think people necessarily fully appreciate until you go through it that your hormones are a mess, your relationship with your partner is changing, and on top of that, just kind of you just don't know what's going on. So having access to that kind of care is really and
the coaching works for both the mother and the father. I think, which that was offered when a few years ago in the UK office for myself, and I think that lots of people who have been on that have also benefited. I think as a returning dad back to work again, you sort of face the same things of like having no idea what you've been doing. You've kind of been at home for a period of time. You're trying to adapt to in my case, I was just like, can I keep this child alive? That was my focus for the first couple of weeks. And then once I felt like I was reasonably confident in that, and then you sort of return back to work, and that feels very alien to you as a father as well. So I think, again, it's very similar sort of experiences, perhaps less the hormonal thing, but definitely learning to adapt to my wife, who was going through those things, was definitely another challenge that we faced as well.
But I'm sure she appreciated your ability to access those things, right? Like,
Yeah, and I think there's the thing that I think the fact that Farfetch sort of offered those, and even the ability to kind of stagger and work out how you were going to return to work again was another huge value to us in us having our family.
yeah. And you touched on it there. I mean, we just rolled out our flexible working policy, which again is a little bit different in each country, but it just gives you the ability to work in a way that works for you, whether that's hours, days of the week, the schedule that you run. And I think especially now, just given uncertainty about schools and how long they're going to stay open and what our situation is with COVID, this is just incredibly helpful. One of the things I have to say I really appreciated at the beginning of quarantine is Farfetch issued kind of a policy philosophy document about parents, right? Working carers. And we issued it to our whole population, right? We didn't just send it to parents and say, here, parents, like, just so you know, you have this for you. And I think that was quite a statement to say, like, as a company, as a community, we're supporting each other, right? Everyone's got their own stuff going on. You just don't know. And so let's just be really empathetic and supportive of each other for as long as we need to all get through this together. But let's do it in that empathetic and flexible way. And I think that was great. That was really great to see.
Yeah, I think we've seen that throughout this period is the support mechanism. It really is, the way in which managers and teams have sort of rallied together to be understanding of the scenarios that people are in, not just the parents, but other people who are carers and other circumstances, but especially for parents. Unfortunately, my son's very young, so I didn't have to do the homeschooling part, but I know lots of parents have had that new side career as part of their task as well. So yeah, again, I think that the support system of the managers, and as you say, that sort of global approach, very much appreciated.
Yeah. I mean, the side career of being a parent is not one in my wildest dreams I thought I would need to do. It's been, I think of all of what's happened in the last 6 months. The fact that my children came away during that 10-week, and all three of them, let me be clear, came away having learned something new with their mom and dad as teachers, it still blows my mind.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I remember the first few days, we sort of had a conversation, my husband and I, around like, okay, how are we going to do this? What are we going to do? How are we going to make it through each day? And we set a very low bar around, like, the goal is that the kids should go back to school knowing as much, maybe slightly less than what they know now. That's it. And I think just having that, it just took a lot of the pressure off. I have a quick question for you, Rich, actually. So,
all right, let's go for it.
As you said, you're the chair of the parent community at Farfetch. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
I guess our goal really is to help the parents at Farfetch to thrive in their careers here and still be amazing parents to the children that they have at home. And what we want to be able to do is to identify and find out who all the parents are. We're wanting to work with all the different regions to understand what are the challenges that you find that you're facing, and they may be differing in different regions. I think as you mentioned before, there are a number of different challenges out there, and understanding how and where Farfetch can play a role in helping to be a force for good and be a thought leader in this area. So where can we really make a difference in people's lives and enable us to have those kind of amazing careers and fulfill your potential here at Farfetch? And I think you mentioned it in terms of like seeing mothers returning back to work, seeing fathers take that time off to kind of spend with their children and feel that that's an acceptable thing that they should be able to do as well. And I think, what does that look like in regions? Amazing progress already with the flexible working. I think understanding how childcare plays a role in that. Finding that there's a space for people to just share. We've seen recently a lot of the stuff on the children returning back to school, lots of excited parents or scared parents who, for the first time, who are sending their children off. It's a beautiful place for us to be able to celebrate and understand the community as a whole. And I think that global sense of what we have here at Farfetch. So that's a little bit about what we're doing. And you mentioned it earlier. I'd like to just go back to it briefly, but it was your obviously we can't have a conversation anymore without talking about the wonderful COVID lockdown period. So I just wanted to just to finish on, it would be great to hear from you on what were your learnings, or what was your key kind of takeaways from the last 6 months.
Let's see, learnings. That there was a direct correlation between my patience threshold and how hungry I was. That was an immediate learning. And that my children eat a lot. Like, I don't think I fully appreciated how many days we would go from like meal to snack to meal to snack all the time. And I don't know if it was maybe just a way of them not doing schoolwork, but that was a constant cycle in our house. I think my husband and I definitely were really proud of the fact that we actually taught our kids something, and that they, well, pretended at least, but no, I think they genuinely enjoyed it. And we tried to be fun about it, right? Like, so we limited our daily teaching to a few hours. We were realistic about what we thought we could achieve. And then we had fun things like science experiments. We did an egg drop where the kids all used like recycled stuff and threw eggs off of the side of our house. We had an outdoor like sports day, because obviously that all got missed. And I think generally, it was nice. It was nice when they went back, that they went back quite confident and comfortable, that they had spent their time at home doing some things and learning. And I think probably my biggest takeaway was just to give each other a break and to give each other some space. I think it was a lot. And who knows what the future holds, right? I mean, in the US, schools are still opening, kind of opening, not opening. In the UK, it's the same. We've all gone back, but who knows for how long. And it's changing. And so to be flexible and to just give each other a break.
Getting back to your point around the sort of challenges to come, I think hopefully that's where this parents community can help out. I think we can be there for things like this that come up where none of us have experienced these sort of scenarios before, and how can we use this community to help make sure that we're listening to everyone and helping to feed that back into Farfetch to make sure that Farfetch can help answer and solve for some of these challenges that we're all going to face, and do these things together. And I think in that Todos Juntos way and the global sense, that's what we really want to make sure we get out of this community. So Nehal, thanks for joining us today. It's been amazing to talk to you. I've learned a lot from it, and I think everyone listening will hopefully have done the same too. So stay tuned.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next time on the next episode of Farfetch Threads.
Thanks for listening. Make sure you never miss an episode of Farfetch Threads by subscribing to our Spotify and Farfetch People YouTube channel. If you're ready to do what's never been done, visit farfetchcareers.com